Yep.
We are back at House Education Wednesday, March 25th. Continue our discussion on policy decision points. I'd say during the break, as we all sort of reflected back on this, maybe that we should try to get through these with a sort of philosophy of let's not try to reinvent the wheel as much as possible. See how we do. So we were just talking about proposed articles of agreement. So the question is, do we include specific provisions of any kind? Which would be a deviation from current law. So I would say at this point, let's not.
Yeah, I would
Keep it
agree.
simple. Board size and guidance. I think I personally would need Beth to come back in and sort of walk through board size as it is. Is that right now? Yeah.
And just make sure I heard correctly because there was some movement going. So schools closure, that whole piece you're saying, did we just agree we're going to stay silent on that?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I thought. I just wanted to confirm.
Guidance and requirements, read representation models. The law is pretty clear on that. And I think that should be
There's three in the law now. So I guess the question is, are we happy with those three? Do we not want to have any?
the three those are, they've stood the test of time.
So we don't need to do.
What are the three?
It is totally at large. Proportional representation, meaning that based on the community you're elected from, you get a fraction of a vote. And hybrid, which is
Vast majority do, I think.
yeah. And then there are some that have at large and hybrid. So
So
it all just has to be,
They all do that.
it all just has to be constitutionally allowed. Okay, let's go down to 3C, type of school district. Require consideration of a unified union school district. I'm a yes on that because that's the most efficient model. Should a newly formed district want to create an operating structure by which they could do any or all of the above, they can.
just to clarify from this morning, because I know it'll come up. So a unified union school district is responsible for the education of all students in grades pre-K through 12.
Yes.
But how that is provided within a unified union school district is up to them. So it does not eliminate school choice if you are a K-12 unified school district. Because I know that's people listening are going to ask that question.
That's right.
Or
Unless that district
decide.
chooses to do that.
Our saying unified union school district is not eliminating existing school choice, tuitioning, how they send.
Now.
Not now.
That doesn't
Now,
mean
it may be when the merger study committee
Correct.
comes together, they may say, you know something,
Correct.
can't really see how these two could work together under one governance structure. We're just not going to.
That's up to each of the local study committees to determine. Okay, thank you. Just wanted that clarification out there.
Yeah.
The unified union school district is as opposed to a supervisory union.
Correct.
So I'm gonna put in my flag, my people are saying supervisory unions, so.
That's fine. They can decide that.
Okay,
So
Again, mandated conversation, not mandated action.
okay.
concrete example. So, because I've received some emails. So was it prior that you could not be in the same school district if you had different operating structures? So for example, where I taught, that's why the 6 elementary schools got together and formed one school district. Lake Region High School was a separate school district. They then were a supervisory union. But I've heard from some there, it said, we'd like to be a K-12. We're thinking about maybe being a K-12 system. The same ones, those 6 and the high school, but we would be one rather than supervisory union with 2. And that would be allowable under this plan.
Now,
More
example,
people on board perhaps.
all of Bennington County could get together
Yeah. Become one.
and say, we want to be one district. and we realize we have multiple different operating systems, but we are going to be a pre-K to 12 district. And within it, we are going to adopt attendance zones and sort of all the things that Chris put out in his thing,
Your district choice.
and we're going to operate it that way.
That's-
Or more likely, they might say, that's too complicated, we're just simply going to stay the way we are. Same with SUs.
Yeah, I guess it would be that it would be tied to articles of agreement, something in there, and it's gonna say like the bigger fish can't just eat the smaller fish because they have more voters.
So if they choose, if the study committee says, we want to move forward with a pre-K to 12 operating district, then their articles of agreement would probably have to, they would have to work that out in the articles of agreement.
But even,
Or they might just say, they're not gonna do it.
yeah, even within the articles of agreement, theoretically, couldn't enough voters vote for articles of agreement that benefited their long-term secret goal, not saying anyone has this long-term secret goal, but of shutting down the school and adopt the articles of agreement that would allow that?
Theoretically, yes. I think I would hope that having been part of that and something like that, where there was a big fish and a bunch of small fish, that people would have the best interest of all schools in the district at heart.
And can we-
And then, that's, democracy happening. And democracy in that case may say, yeah, we're scared of that. We're not going to go through with it. Remember that when forming a unified union school district, if one town or one district says we don't want to participate or votes no on the articles of agreement, the whole thing doesn't happen.
And then they can start over without that town. Try it again. So it actually.
Or not, or they can just.
I'm trying to figure out a way to mandate, do the right thing.
You have to trust
about the right thing.
Yes.
Think about kids
Right.
first.
But even that, I think is
I understand, but I'm saying.
This is why
beat the small.
this is a process that should make people there feel very comfortable. Because everybody's very much in control of the destiny.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay. What happens if study committee determines a UUSD is inadvisable, but maybe some other format would be advisable? They need to form a separate study committee. Can they just document the decision and move towards forming something other than a UUSD? I would say, if they say it's unadvisable, that they're done. And that if they want to use the current Chapter 11 language to try something else, there's nothing preventing that.
My only question is, so does that mean they have to start all over again as opposed to that same study committee? Because that was the question is, could they just document the decision and move forward on that new plan without having a whole new study committee because they've already done all the work? I think is what the question is there. And I don't know, just asking. It's like we had this study committee, we got together, we figured this out and we said, oh, yeah, what's really more advisable is we have an elementary. And so we're going to move forward. I guess that's the question. Do they have to start all over? Or
So
could they?
They
make that
have
decision
all
done?
that
Okay,
information.
all right, well,
They've already done
so
work.
can they just document that decision point and actually move towards forming something other than a
Yeah.
UUSD?
Seems more efficient.
Yeah.
Wouldn't this be very much like the task force and what they did with the Act 73 recommendation to come up with maps and they came up with something different like?
No, I don't think so.
No, I feel like it's applicable.
I don't think they're related at all.
Isn't the goal to get us to school districts?
Yes.
I don't understand why we would play in a sandbox,
Other than a K-12 school district?
UUSD.
Yeah.
I mean, aren't we, like, recommendations come back to us and we just say, okay, those of you who made good decisions, have UUSD. Check. Those of you who have made poor decisions, we'll just create UUSDs with you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we could say, okay, if you decide not to do it, then we can just say, that's it. And if they want to continue on another path, they're welcome to using Chapter 11. I think this is the area where incentives will be important.
Absolutely.
Ways and Means is trying to work on incentives.
And we heard that in testimony yesterday.
Yes, we sure did.
The key was incentive.
It really was.
Take that very seriously.
That was
Well, and I guess
All right, so I think for simplicity's sake, again, trying to keep it simple, we would just say, if it's not advised, you're done. You want to go down another path, the current law allows that.
Okay.
You're not getting any incentives
So I guess that's my only,
or a facilitator.
I guess that's my only question is that going to stop areas from getting together that would otherwise, I don't want to stop the mergers.
The law allows them to, if they want to, yeah, start a second. The reference to C side-by-side concept, Act 49, I would say is not a path we want to have.
Okay.
That just creates
Another.
lots of carve-outs and different models and. It's actually here for Act 49, 46. Does a UUSD need to include all participants in the study committee? But if the study committee decides only 6 of the 8 member school districts are necessary. Okay, if the other 2 districts remain on their own, require a new separate study committee. Again, this would be an incentive thing.
I don't think you should have to include all members.
I
Right.
don't either.
I mean, or even
I mean,
require
why don't we just
participation.
stick with current
Yes,
law?
or-
Because who knows what the study committee will, they might be advisable, it might make no sense.
All right, so due dates, we have to, we're gonna do that.
So skip over.
Yeah, okay. New school district, advisable, any extra requirements on top of current law? So
No.
No,
18
That's the report, though. It's just for what do you
final
want?
reports.
Reports.
Current law requires a report go to the school board of each school district with no additional direction. I think that's probably, as, unless somebody would have to make a report, the law is in there,
That's what we did.
It's
under
all public.
46, right? Even with the incentives and with the, startup grants and all that, we still had it just go to the school board.
So here is a deviation from current law that I, at this point, favor. If the study committee says a new district is inadvisable, do you require a report? I would say yes. What should be in the report? We created language already in the language in front of us. It talks about what should be in it.
Right.
I'm not sure I'd go down the path of all these other things. Other than who the report should go to. Because
That's an our.
no, it's probably in our current language. I think it probably should go to.
Well, you would want to know the reasons why the formation would be inadvisable.
Yeah, so this is so that's a question that we'll need to see what we have is where the report goes.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're getting into sort of how it happened during Act 46. Current law requires advisable report and proposed articles of agreements to go to the secretary, who shall then submit them with recommendations to the state board. This, if we are talking about having incentives, then we should probably have a certain level of review.
Yes.
Don't know about slowing it down. Maybe we'll have Beth go over that process with us to get a sense of timing. Current law, the State Board of Education is allowed to say no.
Mhm.
Do we still want that level of?
Say no to a group that came together and tried to merge.
Yeah.
You're on the new district and advice.
That's what I would
Letter F.
Say why would letter F?
Yeah, go
Why would-
dollars.
Oh.
I think perhaps to avoid a Roxbury situation.
I think there is a situation where they could say no and should probably say.
So you're doing on the state board review piece?
Okay.
I would say no changes to the current process.
No change to the current process.
Yeah. Did we skip D3? D,
3 under
new district advisable.
Read out the orphans.
Oh, new district advisable, any extra requirements on top of current law, we said no.
Okay, that's what I thought I heard, but for some reason, it was. My brain just didn't catch it.
But less likely.
So under Act 46, everybody kind of created their articles of agreement, voted on them, then it went to the secretary for review, who we could skip that and just have it go directly to the State Board of Education.
That was a question I had. It's good to skip a whole.
Is that,
I was wondering about that, why I had to go to the secretary and then go to the state board, but I'm not sure leaving the Secretary of Education out of the loop of this process is necessarily a good idea either.
all right, so
I think
let's,
we can get some feedback. on
We need
that,
some
but
feedback on that.
I'm not.
From those-
Or put a timeline on her opportunity for review.
yep. You could say if it's not
Yeah.
reviewed, then, you know.
Perhaps it's directly to the street.
Yeah.
We should get input from the state board and say, why they're saying, yeah, fine, or no, this is why we want that. Maybe the state board would like that review before it comes to that. Ask them.
You know, of course, there are questions of, does the state board have the capacity to do
We
this?
have to think about that while we're talking.
That may be a, question for next year. Okay. Current state law requires providing study committee to be heard. Allows SBE to request that the study committee amend the report or articles of agreement. So should we allow the state board to require that they amend their articles of agreement, amend the report or articles of agreement? I think one thing I'm trying to think of here is, I have a question for Beth when we have her back at 4, hopefully. And that is, I can't remember the order here. Are articles of agreement voted on and then do they go to the state board, or do they go to the state board for approval and then voted on?
State board first.
So if the field has voted, I would be hesitant to say then the state board can.
We need to find that out.
I thought it was the other way around, but we need to find out.
That's for F, correct?
Yep.
Because I was thinking that we should stay with the current process.
Actually, we need a little clarification on the current process.
You might be right, draft up articles of agreement, but this secretary. of state paid for it.
Because if you voted on them.
But that's
they're gonna
almost
get
giving a
changed.
layer of approval that maybe I'll do.
Uh,
Further down the road.
Everybody ready to jump to G?
Yes.
Okay, current law requires voters of each school district identified as necessary or advisable to vote. If I deviate in any way, say no.
No,
Need to happen by a certain date.
no.
I think there need to be some timelines, but. Process.
Maybe there's.
Yeah,
Did you say incentives? That's
Especially.
I was thinking we get a window where you can get incentives, but after that.
yeah.
I mean, so if they vote to not form a union school district, then they still are remaining in their CISA, correct?
Yes.
And so the other point of this, I feel like we're not talking about enough, is that the real point of the CISA is not to push towards consolidation, but to start savings.
That's right. It's to provide the services that that districts within. the
Ancillary. thing.
Okay.
Rotating processes. ancillary to it.
Yeah, think of CISAs as separate and apart from this, other than their ability to sort of take on the facilitator.
Is this a document that's just internal?
No, it's posted.
So I wonder if that part G, where it says vote to form a union school district, really needs to say vote whether to form a union school district, just to make sure that it's not influencing that they should be voting to form a union school district.
Okay.
This is.
I would hope people would understand that vote means it's gonna win or lose.
This is only informing statute when we get to that point.
Well,
These are just decision points for us to have. So yes, it is internal, but it is a public document.
Okay.
and
Light
also,
bulb over right now.
It's just a thought, you know, because I'm wondering if there should be two phases of incentive. So this first round is like 2 years, right? But then we take a year off and we say, oh, the window's gonna be open again for another 6 months. You know, after a break of like a year, and that way when people go, oh man, we missed that tax break, we should have done that. Somebody says, hey, oh, that window opens up again in another year, we got 6 months.
And won't that just stop everybody from doing anything until that third year?
That's a good point. You don't tell them that.
It'll be in the secret statutes. Okay. Report back on results from AOE, yes.
this is the results of the vote.
Well, I guess we now have
How many
we now have the answer to our question about whether the vote comes before going before the state board. Clearly, it comes after that. So I guess I would be perhaps hesitant to deviate from state law and allow the state board to review and recommend changes.
Okay.
So then, if there are
So there's
incentive,
still a question around the secretary review part.
I would say, do we want to deviate from law? In the Act 46 process, that was a fairly quick, like, okay, everything looks like it's in order, passing it on to the state board.
But maybe put a time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've made a note about that. or
Yep.
should I maybe look up?
Oh, in 46 current line, it goes to secretary first. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
And then it goes, okay.
Yeah.
That's how.
Okay. So we are at H. We have to name everything.
Even if they're 1, 2,
actually-
3, 4.
On that section before we get to names.
Yep.
I'd like to explore Leon's map further. As a,
Well, then we are down to guidance map then.
okay. Well, I thought you said names, so
Oh, yeah.
I like her map keeps popping back in my head, and I was hoping that, we're looking at yours, looking at hers as well, and seeing what we can come up with, either one or the other between the two, but I really, hers resonates with me.
Yeah, so I'll again sort of advocate for mine, and we're talking about CISAs here, not about.
Right, which is
districts.
the CISA map.
Is that, mine accommodates the existing CISA that is there continues it as a CISA, and represents areas where superintendents are already working together, because these are superintendent groupings, and they're the ones who are gonna have to work together closely on a CISA. There's also some, I would just say, topography issues. Yeah. So that's kind of where I am on mine. Mine needs some adjustments. There's no question about it.
Can we pull hers and try and see if there's ways to merge the two and use some, and make that so we can work on the adjustments?
It would have to be with justification. Need some specific reasons as to why that is better. Which, fine, I'm totally open to that. I'm just telling you why I picked mine. It also follows the recommendation of the task force.
I think it's for me, like, when I look here is with the districts in it, my brain goes to the districts, because I do appreciate the point about, as you mentioned the other day and today, about the VSAs, they're already working together.
Yeah.
I will say that when I first created that map, it was sort of thinking not so much about the CISAs. This was created before the time really turned towards the CISAs, and I was thinking about those districts more as supervisory unions to reduce our 52 to the 17, because I was basically thinking if we want something to pass, and the governor is absolutely not going to accept anything that doesn't have a reduced map, that would be the reductions I would want to make. And then kind of put the CISAs over that and then the tide term to the CISAs. I mean, I think in thinking about like, if the CISAs did eventually somehow form SUs or districts within their CISAs versus inter CISAs, that's what I would recommend because the kids all go to the same tech district. So that is sort of the philosophy behind that.
I get the text district,
Yeah.
part of that, sure. Okay. So the guidance maps. You know, again, the language that we have says following, that the facilitator will go out there and use those as guidance and nothing more. One could see what you know, so I'm just going to back up and sort of reorient us to our various mapping thoughts. So if we could sort of figure out our CISAs, then those would also, I would say, double as the areas that the facilitator would have to facilitate. And then within that, we've got the colored portions, which would be the recommended, the guiding groupings of school districts for their merger study committees.
So we are recommending what the new school districts should be.
We are recommending, yes, you could say that from a upper level, which is why, you know, if you got ideas for adjustments, and I could totally see one right up in your neck of the woods.
My neck of the woods.
Exactly.
But again, the study group can go outside of that recommendation if it's advisable. They say, oh, it makes more sense to pull you into this one instead of that one.
Yes.
The people on the ground.
Guidance only, but when the facilitators.
There were guidance. Well, you know, like I said, I could see an adjustment I would make in my area. You've got one in your area.
Yeah.
Before we even handed it off.
Correct.
But they're not limited to that.
I mean, I think, you know, one of the goals of the merger study committees, of course, is regional high schools and middle schools. And probably there are areas where we have violated that idea in my map. And so we should think about that. I shouldn't say violate, it is not optimized.
Missed it.
Update, Matt?
So 72 was voted on, it is going to be voted by roll, they have not started calling a poll yet.
Okay. So
One more on here.
what's that?
I don't think we can do I until we've done all the rest. Conforming
Correct.
I
changes.
might have something.
That may be more of a ways and means thing than for instance, the funding part. And that will, you know, if we sort of play the long, think about how this is all going to work out in the end, I suspect that will be probably part of a conference committee discussion. This language, this under I needs to be adjusted because currently the trigger for the foundation formula is newer large districts being operational.
We can't put in.
And we are now making that process a little fuzzier, a little more like how many? And I've asked Ways and Means to think about this. Do you put in a date certain? Do you say once there are 75% newer larger districts?
Or can we put in language that just says, irregardless of new districts, this goes into effect by 2030?
We could. I'm not sure that would have the amount of support in order to make it out of this committee. But what I will say is I think that's going to have to be a conversation in the end anyway.
Are there superintendents whose superintendent districts span more than one CTE region?
More than one
The-
CTE region.
What do you mean when you say superintendent districts?
Well, so I'm sorry, I just don't know how to read this map.
So that's where I think
Intelligence.
confusion lies. It's not superintendent districts, it's superintendent meet district where they meet together
Okay.
as to. So
Multiple.
thank you, that's the word I'm trying to come up with, the regional groupings where they're meetings.
Okay.
monthly.
I'm not trying to like be dumb or offensive. I have no idea what to make of this map. I've tried so many times to read it.
Okay.
I'm not sure what it's trying to tell me.
So let me just say it again, because every time I say it's good for me.
Can I still ask my question?
Yes.
That I was asking, because I don't really feel like I got an answer. Are there superintendents who the districts that they cover, that they are superintendents of, are in more than one tech center? Like some schools that they cover are in this tech center and some schools that they cover are in this tech center.
I think Chittenden County gets kind of confusing, because like you could be the superintendent of Colchester. There's no CTE there, but your kids go to 2 or 3 CTEs.
U
Mine might be like that.
At least two. They send them to Randolph and they send them to Fairfield.
Okay,
Well,
so some
Falls
schools actually-
sends them to Forever and to.
Hazen, all of the kids go to Green Mountain Tech. In that League region, like all the kids at Choose Tech. At League region, all of the kids go up to North Country Tech.
Yeah.
So that's not really the model across the state.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, all CTEs are, it is
Okay.
different everywhere.
Some of it has to do with programming.
Yeah.
Like some kids go to LI, some kids go to, in my area, some will go to LI, some will go to St. J, depending on what.
Or they're
program.
full at one school and so you can get them into the other school.
Or they don't even offer certain programs.
CTEs, I think every CTE has a catchment area.
Right.
That's in statute.
They have an advisory board.
But kids can go beyond that if the program's not offered or a program is full. All right, what do you say we go up?
When vote on something.
We'll do this bill, and then come back.
Right. Sorry, and can we go over the map again? Because I'm still trying so
So-
hard to make sense of this. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Yeah, if you look on the map, just the small print just to the right of it, it has like a legend in the
Yeah,
bottom.
let's go off and we'll head up to the floor.